When a cow got through the fence into the bush, I'd have to go after it. Or we'd go in hunting a fox. Or I went with my dad to cut wood. I got to know it that way. Now, even when there are no chores to be done there, I've got into the habit of taking a walk in the sugar bush. Two worlds are contained in the woodlot. Next door to the world of human concerns is the other, where curiosity can stumble over a feather and find death. It's a world cut off by the plow, and none of its creatures would leave it for long. Surrounded by danger, their life has been a stubborn survival. When the forests were cleared away, survival for a way of life was at stake. But clumps, no good for grazing or crops, were left. As long as enough was preserved, nature could fit her ways into the smaller pattern. The wood that we burn making the sugar in spring, I chop from trees my great-great-grandfather let stand. The trees have paid for their keep with cordwood and syrup, again and again. All through April, before early milking, I'd sneak to the bush by myself and sit quiet. Females were hard to make out, but if I listened, I could hear a male drumming. Other grouse know by the drumming it's his territory. Females can enter. Any male he's going to fight off. There's danger in showing off, but he keeps up a noisy display. Her interest only begins when he puts on his mating display, roughing his neck and hoisting his tail like a flag. I found the eggs a month later. She was the only hen I could find in our sugar bush, and there was just the one male, I was sure. A pair of grown birds were all that ever seemed to be left every time spring came around, but there are usually 12 eggs at least to begin with. The eggs demand a care from the hen which instinct compels her to show. she settles quietly down to the job of hatching the newest generation. Whenever you walk in the bush, you have to be careful not to step on something living or growing, especially in May. The trillium has pushed its way up through last year's leaves, getting its blossoming done in a hurry while the sun can still shine through the lattice of this year's leaves. Like a moon in eclipse, the trillium is soon overshadowed. It discolors and turns to seed, its blossoming already achieved. Jack in the pulpit thrives when the canopy of leaves has closed in and the woodlot is deep in shade. Lots of things compete for whatever sunlight is let through by the trees. There's mayapple, which later produces a sweet-smelling fruit, and the millions and billions of seedlings from the trees up above. They spring from the ground, scrambling for places and cramping their leaves. They push up from the shadows and rival each other as they race for the sun. Countless as stars, short-lived as snowflakes. Seedlings don't often get to be trees, but anything vulnerable, nature makes multiply to counteract depletion of her ranks. When my axe cuts into the woodlot, the light can pour through. One of the seedlings in the leap up for the sun will eventually outreach the others and the gap will be closed again. But there can never be room for all. Even the most prolific species are kept in control by the sheer variety of life in the bush and the variety of appetites they possess. The twigworm's appetite for the maple would destroy every leaf of every tree in the bush. But the wood thrush has him under control. Just by looking out for their own, all things are maintained in a vigorous balance. In unchecked supremacy, it was the hawk that got the snake. The twist which brought death to the snake brought a reprieve to the grouse chick, but a grouse fell prey to a fox. The predator's action will pluck out the surplus, the unfit and the foolish. Nothing was destroyed in the bush without my feeling the loss. An old tree, a young grouse, a fox I had shot myself. I felt the same gap. I knew how old the woodlot was, resting on dirt the glaciers had left. Topsoil, of course, was made up of things that had died during the thousands of years since. What boy thinks of history, though, in terms of the buried? But that was all underneath, and I only wanted to think of the living, not how the living were nourished. But if you live near to nature, you have to observe that death makes possible the redistribution of the materials of life. The strength that was once in the living tree is not lost. The funguses feeding on dead logs and stumps, reducing them, bringing them low, are unlinking the chains that structured the tree, and that strength is put back into the earth. I had seen that raccoon eating all kinds of things, but I knew very well that he could. But a larva that eats wood can be eaten by a raccoon. When you work it all out, the whole system's so perfect, you can't find the details repulsive. Those who are fed and those who are fed upon relate in a pyramid pattern that has shaped the lives of all creatures. The bush contains millions of lowly insects which form a basis for creatures more complex in their behavior. Thousands of creatures at this higher level also rely upon number to compensate for their weakness. For they nourish the levels above them, the flesh eaters. Here is the potential food for the predators, who are greater in power, though fewer in number, towards the top of the pyramid. From the summit, the hawk acts as sentinel. By looking out for himself, he stabilizes the living structure of the pyramid, which he himself makes complete. The woodlot sustains all the plants and creatures in its fold, and they in time give sustenance back to the woodlot. The woodlot today is pretty much as it was when I was a boy. I wouldn't want it changed because of all I get out of it. I get a grouse in the fall, and the maple sugar, and of course my wood. But I always make sure there are grouse left, so at least one pair make it through till spring. This is the woodlot my great-great-grandfather let stand. And as long as there's someone who understands it in the way I figure he did, it will still be there when my great-great-grandson gets to know it.